Welcome to Well Talk. I'm here with Coach Omar Sanchez, Director of Athletics from St. Mary's College High School out in the Bay Area. Super excited to have Coach Omar on here with me this morning as we're going to just talk about a lot of different things. And Coach, just wanted to welcome you. I appreciate you taking time to come on here and share.
Of course, man. I'm glad we were able to connect and make this happen.
Likewise, likewise. So I know it's going to be a great conversation. One thing I'd like to do first is just have you kind of introduce yourself to listeners, kind of give them a little bit of what you do, what you're about, and share just some insights of, where you are right now.
Yeah, of course. Let's see. I'm currently the director of athletics at St. Mary's College High School in Berkeley, and as you mentioned, and for me, it's I'm in a role to serve other people.
Mm,
I serve a group of about 105 coaches and
wow.
about 400 student athletes, and so the role is always to make sure that we're serving our people in the right way, that we're able to provide the tools to our coaches to be successful and to our student
Mm,
athletes to also have some holistic development in what they're doing. The sport is great, and I think it's a mechanism for life.
mm,
But more importantly, I think if we're not developing our student athletes holistically, then we're going about it the wrong way. And I think
mm.
it's important to note that there's a statistic out there that 99% of the kids in high school are not going to play at the collegiate level. So I
Wow.
think
Yeah.
I think it's important to enhance the student athlete experience from that perspective, and having some takeaways and some nuggets that we give kids so that when they go to the next phase of life, that they're prepared and are armed to be able to, combat some of the challenges that life is going to bring us, whether we like it or not.
For sure. No, I love that. And yeah, I love the part too of highlighting the student athlete portion as well, and just giving students and teams that you work with tools to continue to develop and building character, right? Especially in this day where there's a lot of stuff going on where it's easy for people to get caught up in other things or all the other pressures of life and stress and performing and all of that. So
Mhm.
definitely. That's super cool.
Well, the interesting part about it is that we're led by negative. We're naturally very negative as humans and stuff, and I think it's important
Yeah.
to note that we have to create an environment for ourselves that is conducive to growth, and negativity doesn't give us growth. So we have to find the
Mm,
positive. We have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, but finding the positive in those
yeah.
moments so that we can grow. Because if we focus on, as you mentioned, five, six different things of, a student athlete goes through, whether it's like, their family life, their
Hmm.
academic life, they got practice, they got all this other stressors of life. They have to navigate their friendships and all
Hmm.
those pieces. And so I think it's important that as coaches that serve that population, we have to do a good job of making sure that we're arming them to be better better human beings in general.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's just it too. It's so easy to get caught up in so many other things like the family life, the school performing with the athletics, all that pressure, the time management, all of the factors that are involved there, and saying, hey, later on in life, you got to also learn and be prepared to manage your time well and how you're going to do this, studying, doing work, balancing the hobbies, the activities, the family life. It's a
Yeah,
lot. It's a
yeah.
lot. And I like what you said. Yeah, becoming comfortable in the uncomfortable, and then also, there's a cognitive distortion from CBT that is disqualifying the positive, right? Stop disqualifying the positive. And a lot of times, there's so much pessimism where you brought up about the negativity that as humans we kind of fall into that cycle of just,
Hmm.
oh man, what's the worst that's going to happen, and try to get people out of that thinking too and say, hey,
Yeah.
we got to have some more balance.
And I do an exercise with our teams at St. Mary's on how they feed their heart. And I'm like, I think there's six
Mm,
different ways where you can feed your heart. And a lot of those ways we have control over, and some of those things relate to, what we watch, what we see, what we surround ourselves
Yeah.
with. The more important ones is like how we view ourselves. How do we
Mm,
talk to ourselves? Like these
mm,
are all things that are going to help us grow in the right way or grow in the wrong way. And like I
yeah.
said, the mind and the body is so resilient
Yeah.
that it's never too late to make a pivot if you're in the negative to be positive.
Yeah.
I grew up in an environment in Southern California. I was born in Compton, raised in Watts,
Mm,
and I grew in an environment where, there's a lot of gang life
mm,
situations. There's, you have friends that are in and out of gangs. You have, you're playing sports, and the high school that I attended, David Starr Jordan High School, had
mm.
multiple gangs there, and there was always,
Wow.
the occasional fights, the occasional, somebody had a knife or is
Mm,
suspected of carrying a weapon.
mm-hmm.
So you grow up in those environments, and sometimes it's hard to kind of remain positive. So I also understand that
Yeah.
kids' environments have a lot to do with what they bring to the academic setting.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think the key thing for the role that I'm in and the coaches
Mm-hmm.
that I put in front of our student athletes is that we have to lead with a servant heart. We have to understand that we're
Mm.
serving people, and these people come from different backgrounds. They come from
Yeah.
different socioeconomic backgrounds. They come from different upbringings. They come from different households, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a single family or a mom and dad at home, or two moms or two dads. It's a different dynamic, and we have to be ready to serve that type of population.
For sure. For sure. And you bringing up even your background, I'd like to hear a little bit more about that too, because you are pretty much going where you're like, hey, you grew up in Watts, you grew up, you had a rough upbringing with the high school that you went to, things like that, and trying to adjust, adapt, and do well for yourself. I'm curious, like, what was it that kept you going, kept you resilient, kept you focused? Because you got a lot of stuff going on around you, and I'm sure maybe even like you said, friends that are in gangs and people around you that are doing other stuff. What kept you focused? What kept you, and what they say now, locked in? Like what was it? You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I think it's important to note that when we grow up in those environments, we don't necessarily think about like that it's bad. That's all
Mm,
we know. You know what I mean? So like
huh.
growing up, you like
Yeah.
you're developing a sense of awareness. My grandfather used to say you're getting street smart, and that's important
Mm-hmm.
to be
Yeah.
street smart, because then if you're street smart, you can operate anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate to be very street smart growing up in that environment, understanding surroundings,
Mm-hmm.
seeing cues that are red flags. Um, but growing up in it, you don't necessarily think like, man, I'm in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in those days we didn't have social media, so we watched TV, and so we have this notion
Yeah.
of like what what having looks like, and so through
Mm-hmm.
TV we kind of have these assumptions. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, part of how I fed my heart when I was younger was important. I was very faith-based. I grew up in a Catholic household, and even though my faith wasn't necessarily we didn't delve into faith.
Uh-huh.
It was more like I lived across the street from a church, and
Okay.
it's a Catholic church. So, my mom would always say, go to church, go to church. Eventually,
Yeah.
we got old enough whether we wanted to go to church was kind of a preference of ours. But my closest friend to this day, David Mendoza,
Mm-hmm.
he is the guy that kind of like guided me in a way that he mentored me. He to
Mm-hmm.
this day is my closest friend. I just spoke to him yesterday, let him know I'm coming down. He is one
Oh,
of the
nice.
guys that I have to see when I go down there and spend time with him. I baptized his daughter, so my
Wow.
being able to see my goddaughter is a big piece as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that group of friends that I had really encouraged me to stay out of trouble. So, I was a high
Mm.
academic kid. I played, I participated in four sports
Yeah.
in high school, and I think it was important to like have this like sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I remember to this day my closest friend David saying, "Hey man, just you need to go away. When you come back, like we're
Mm,
gonna be chilling on the same block, we're gonna be drinking the same beer, we're gonna be saying the same jokes." And the irony of it is that every time I go back, that's what happens. And I
mm,
love my friends. They're my closest friends in life to this day because of
mm,
what they did for me. But I always hung out with an older group of guys, and they really took me under their wing and helped
that's
me kind
cool.
of stay out of trouble, stay on the academic path. And
Yeah,
so, I'm eternally grateful for having them in my life because they fed my heart in a way that was steering away from, the ditch parties,
yeah.
the getting away from school. I was a nerd, man. I loved going to school.
Mm,
I think in my high school time, I took 7 APs, which at the time was a lot.
that is a
Um,
lot. Yeah.
and so I was very on the high academic track. And then, I
Mm,
played sports, which,
yeah.
gave me a sense of discipline and an ability to like be in a group setting and navigate that space. So I would say my faith and my friends are kind of what really helped me immensely to get to a better place. But I also felt like I had a bigger purpose. I knew that I
Mm,
wanted to leave and explore and kind of find who I was as a person. And
mm.
so that's essentially what I did in '96 when I went to Davis.
That there's so much there that I want to unpack, but even just the faith and the friends, whoever's listening, catch that the faith and the friends portion of his life, Omar, what he's talking about, and having mentorship. And I talk to a lot of people about this too. I say that not everyone needs therapy, but everybody needs mentorship. Everybody
Mhm.
needs a mentor, and there are people that do need therapy and they need to go and get support. And that's a whole other thing we can talk about in a bit too. But with mentorship, it's so important. And so hearing you say that you had mentors, you had people who were looking out for you knew guys that were actually genuinely wanting you, like your friend you said, he's like, hey man, you got to get out,
Mhm.
and that to me that hits home because it's just like it's so inspiring to hear that you were focused, but you also had people that were helping you along the way, and I think that is a huge difference maker.
Yeah. And, there was other things, the sport plays a vital role in kind of this is why I love sports, not because
Mm-hmm.
it does bring a group together. It makes you kind of work in a group setting. It allows you to go through adverse situations. But another avenue that I took in high school, I worked with LAPD as a cadet. I was with the
Oh,
Los
okay.
Angeles Police Explorers. And to this day, I still remember Officer Stinson Brown, who was the one that kind of gave me rides to and from home because my
Mm,
father worked and it was hard for him to kind of, he got up at 4:30 every morning to go to work. And so it was hard for him to kind of pick me
yeah.
up on meeting days. But, one of the things that when I became a lieutenant with the cadet program is I was able to go on patrol.
Mm,
And at the time, I wanted to pursue something in law enforcement. But after I experienced like some of the things that you see and what happens in your neighborhood, I felt that I can better serve others in a different capacity because there were some tough things that you see. I think my first call that I ever attended was like this guy that was like shot up 20 times, and it was
wow.
just like one of those eye-opening experiences for me. And so
Mm,
Officer Stinson Brown was another big mentor of mine that kind of instilled a certain discipline in me to help me understand that like in life you need discipline if you want to get anywhere. And so
yeah.
those are two big ones for me that kind of helped me when I was younger.
That's so cool. And yeah, I've seen things firsthand. I'm sure had a had an impact on, like, yeah, that's out there too. And then some people say, well, you see it and then you're like, I don't want to be involved in anything like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? And that's cool. You had that mentorship as well there. And I do want to say too, when you're talking about sports as well, I see the jersey behind you, and so let's hear what sports. I know basketball is your main thing, but
Yeah.
you also played other sports, and so
I always say I partook in other sports, whether I played them or not. We can delve into this later, but I think in my younger days, I really struggled with imposter syndrome, because
Mm,
um, playing sports for me was an outlet, of course.
yeah.
But everything I did was to, nowadays kids have a trainer for everything, right? And then this notion of
Yeah.
specialization, I think is
So
a
true.
weird notion, especially in the high school setting.
Mm,
Obviously, if you're like the top 150 talent in the world, you're in a different level, but
yeah.
everyone has a skills coach, everyone has a trainer, and it's just like, okay. But for me, growing up, I played football not because I was a football player, but because I was afraid of contact in basketball. So I wanted to go
Mm,
and get hit a little bit, get used to contact. And so, our football program was full of some guys that were really rough around the edges
mm,
and and would really, lay a helmet. And so being around those guys kind of helped me be a better basketball player. And then I played volleyball, not because I was a good volleyball player. I turned out to be a
uh,
really good volleyball player.
mm,
But at the time, it was just more of like, okay, well, I wasn't good enough to play, AAU. Back then, when you played AAU, was because you were good.
mm,
I think my senior year, I made a team and I was like number 15 on the bench. And so obviously, you're not getting much run unless you're in the top eight.
yeah.
But volleyball was one of those sports where it kind of helped me with plyometrics and helped me kind of stay active and do some other stuff. And then I would do track as well and do some events there to kind of help the track team. But you
Okay.
know, it just kept me so engaged and active and developed a sense of discipline because when you're a student athlete, your grades have to be on point. You have to make sure that,
Mm,
that's the good thing about sports is that, your coach is always going to follow up with you on your academics and you got to stay on top of it. And
yeah.
it's not given that you're going to play a sport. You have to maintain grades. You have to show up. You
Hmm.
have to be accountable. Again, a lot of life skills are taught through sport that has allowed me to carry those in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool because the discipline aspect, but even taking something from each sport as well. I like that a lot.
Hmm.
Learning something from each sport, getting something from each sport. And you mentioning about everybody having like a specific special trainer it's something that made me laugh because it's like it's so true. You got the trainer for everything and all those different, I think unfortunately too, like it's like, oh, if it doesn't work out and I'm not getting playing time, it's not like, hey, try and work harder. It's like, all right, move to another team or transfer to another school, right? And
Right.
then you keep hopping around and all those different things. And it's not teaching discipline and dedication either. So that's
I,
that's another issue as
I
well.
tell the kids, the grass is greener where you water it, not somewhere
Yeah,
else. So,
no, it's
and
true.
there's outliers and exceptions to the rule where
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
coaches are transactional and they're, not creating a good environment. So I get that too, and that
hmm,
attributes to it. But I think for the most part, if you really work hard and get after it, I mean, you're going to get better. And again, most of the time, coaches are going to play the people that are there, that are going to be there
yeah,
every day, that are going to put in the work. You know what I mean?
hmm, yeah,
Just being there is half the battle. And so, um, I see so much with kids, that are just thinking that somewhere else is going to be better. I'm like,
yeah,
your work ethic is still the same, so it's not going to be
yeah,
different over there. Like they're still going to expect you to work hard and do things. So why don't
yeah,
we start there, So I think it's important to note that mentoring kids around that and helping them understand, like, stay here, play
yeah,
multiple sports, give your primary sport some rest, so that
hmm,
when you get to a place of playing your sport, you're not like you don't have overuse injuries, like which is
for
what's happening
sure.
now in sports.
Definitely. And seeing it a lot too, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in basketball. A lot of those injuries that are happening too, and it's continuing on. And that's why the other thing I wanted to say too is with this basketball jersey behind you, tell me about your basketball career. Because I know you played ball and
Yeah.
you're also a part of the Latino Association of Basketball Coaches. You're the VP, right?
Yeah, well, I sit on the board with Lucas Ramirez, who's down in Arizona.
Okay.
Jason Ludwig is a president, who is the
Okay.
associate head coach over at Santa Clara. And a few years ago, I heard about this. I was a D2 coach,
Mm,
and really did not see like myself in like other coaches. So like I was like, man,
mm.
there has to be other Latinos that are in the sport, man. Like it can't. And so
Yeah.
forever I just couldn't find it. And then I came across Jason, and he was just like trying to get this up and going.
Okay.
Um, and so I said, hey, man, I want to be a part of growing this. I want to help you grow this. I want to do everything in my power to help you. So now we currently have four board members that are kind of associated with the organization, with Jason being the president, and then we have four on the board. On the men's
Okay.
side, it's myself and Lucas, who's an high school coach over at Seguro, and then
Yeah.
in Arizona. And then you have on the women's side, Gabe Lazo, who is an assistant coach over at Tennessee. And
Okay.
then we have another person that is now at UCSB, and he's been there now in his first year. He was a D2 assistant coach and traveled with the head coach over to Santa Barbara. Um,
Cool.
but we have some great people, and I think the organization does a great job of promoting the great work of Latinos in basketball and just highlighting
Yeah.
those. We have a luncheon every Final Four. We do some other
Oh,
stuff that
cool.
we do monthly Zooms where we do some kind of professional development and trying to bring in a coach, trying to bring in someone that's going to help in the profession and help them grow.
Mm, mm,
And so, it's been a journey. Um, Around that. And as far as basketball for me, like I personally, basketball for me was like I said, an outlet initially. I wouldn't necessarily say I was like a phenomenal basketball player in high school, mainly because, I grew up in a household where like my parents led by fear, in particular my mother,
mm,
and I love her to death. But, it's like, hey, mom, I want to play a sport. It's like, don't, because you're going to get hurt. And
mm.
like you look back
Yeah.
when you're older and you realize, man, maybe we didn't have the best insurance, and they couldn't afford it if I got hurt. And so
Um,
like I always hid injuries. I never like told my
mm.
parents like if I was hurt. The only time I actually went to the doctors, like I was turning purple on the couch, and it turns out my lung was partially collapsed from
Oh
playing
man.
football and basketball, and they had to take me. But like there was always this fear of getting hurt. So like I felt in high school like man, I can't like I can't afford to get hurt and like put this financial burden on my family. And so,
Wow.
like, I always played sports from that perspective in high school. I remember my close friend Julio Medrano, who was like this phenomenal shooter, man, like one of the best shooters I've ever played with.
Mm.
And his dad was always like, "Hey, man, just go." Like he was always
Yeah.
there and
Uh-huh.
supportive, and like, and I learned a lot from his dad in the sense like now I have two daughters, and I want to make sure that I'm supportive in what they do, and if they get hurt, I don't care. This is what insurance is for.
Yeah.
But then I went to Davis, and I ended up blowing out my ACL,
Mm,
which was one of the most humbling experiences. I wanted to be part of the team so bad. I told coach, I said, Bob Williams was the coach.
mm.
And I said, coach, I don't care. Like, what do I need to do? I want to be part of the team. And so he's like, dude, like you're coming. I was like 1 month in from my ACL surgery. And he's
Yeah.
like, hey, you can be the team manager. And so that year was the most
Mm.
humbling experience of my life because that year we won a national title.
Oh wow.
And just watching guys and how they got after it and competed,
Mm,
and how well the coaches like meshed
mm.
the team. It just taught me one a lot about, man, coaching is awesome, and
Yeah.
two, um, I really need to work a lot harder. You know,
Mm.
growing up, you always feel like you're a hooper and you can hoop, but then you get around other hoopers that are really good. It's just like, man, I need to be a better hooper. I need to put in more work.
Yeah.
And so from then on, I kind of had an agreement with myself that I'm not as talented as most, but no one's going to outwork me.
Mm.
And so I took that, and I still take that with me in life, is like, okay, you might be better at things, but I am going to outwork you. And
Yeah.
so that granted me an opportunity to play college ball. I ended up transferring to this small college, Holy Names University,
Okay.
where I ended up playing, and we were pretty good. We were number
Yeah.
one team in the nation defensively. We got after it. I made some
Yeah.
really good friends. Um, I had an opportunity to play in Mexico,
Mm.
and I ended up getting certified as a strength coach. So I once I got my certification, I just kind of decided that I was going to pursue that. And so that brought me back to being an assistant coach and a strength coach at Holy Names, where I spent 20
Okay.
years in many different capacities. But the hoop journey for me was not one that, yeah, I had aspirations like playing in the playground. Man, I'm going to be in the NBA and that kind of stuff, just
Yeah.
like every other kid. But
Hmm.
then you get to a place where you're like, man, there's some pretty good hoopers in the world. And it's just like, I'm not gonna be that, but I'm gonna be a contributor. And so, I ended up being a really good defender. I could score the ball, but I didn't have to. And I knew
Mm,
like being part of a team, like you have to be selfless. And so I was that guy that if coach wanted me to score, I score. If coach wanted me
yeah.
to go guard the best player, I go guard the best player. And
Mm.
so I knew that that would grant me more opportunities to play, which did in college. And I'm thankful for the experience. And like I said, I made some good friends along the way.
That's cool. That's really cool. And it's funny that you bring up that in every setting, if you go to a different level, you always realize, man, there's levels, there's levels to this. And yeah, and
Absolutely.
that's something obviously it's applicable in everything, but especially in sports when, I've even worked with some student athletes too, where it's been like, hey, there's other good players out there. There's
Yeah.
levels, and I always say too, like, make sure you get your education or take care of your education so that, if it doesn't work out, you can still have something to fall back on as well.
That's such a great point. I mean, when I was fortunate enough to be a head coach at the D2 level for 13 years
Mm,
and for 12 years, I'm sorry, and then I was a head assistant coach for 8. But I always led with if you want to be the pro, if you want to be a pro, like I'm not your guy.
mm-hmm,
I'm just
mm,
not. Like my job is to help you get a college degree because I know that's going to help open doors for you in your life.
yeah,
And if you're good enough to play pro, you're going to.
yeah,
But one of the things that I would always say when I brought in a class, you are the best of your previous team. You were
mm,
the best player on your previous team. It
yeah,
does not mean that you're going to be the best player here.
mm-hmm,
Okay. There's another level to this. And,
yeah,
I was pretty regimented in the way I coached. We lifted weights early in the morning. We had early morning practices as well. So we would lift, go into practice. Once the season started, we had film sessions, obviously on the road, all of our study halls. And so it's pretty regimented with the kids because I wanted them to understand that you have to develop a certain level of discipline in order
yeah,
to achieve anything in your life, right? Like you have to be in that zone of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I
mm,
always had I think I did a good job of like making sure our group understood that and embraced that, we're going to wake up and, we're lifting at 4:40 in the morning by 5 a.m.,
mm,
or if not, we're, stretching at 4:40 in the morning, practicing at 5 a.m. And
mm,
so, I think that was our edge. And even when I coached, I think I took that so that my players understood, like, we're going to outwork the hell out of people,
yeah,
And so I later realized in hindsight that you need a lot of money to be good at the D2 level, right? Like I was in the Pac West for a while and
uh-huh,
holy cow, I was in there with Cal Baptist and Dixie State
oh,
and
okay,
Grand Canyon who had 10 full rides. And
yeah,
here I am thinking I'm going to win with 1.9. And it's just like, dude, like that is insane. But to your point, man, it's just like, hey, I'm going to help you get a college degree so that
mm-hmm,
you're able to open doors. And the other thing I did is like I never ever like if a kid said, hey, I'll change my major, I'd be like,
yeah,
dude, we don't have your major. I'm not going to recruit you. Like I
mm,
cannot recruit you if we don't have your major. I don't want you to change that. That's like tomorrow you blow out your knee. What are
yeah,
you going to do with this other degree that you had no plan for? Like that's not what I
mm,
want to do for you. So
yeah, definitely. That's, I mean, well, that's being able to say that you're actually really looking out for the person, right? And their
yeah,
and
of
their
course.
future too. And I know that there's a lot of good coaches and there's a lot of people that look out for their players, and shout out to everyone who's doing that and really trying to help young people advance through, whether it's through the education part, but even also learning different things like discipline and dedication and learning how to outwork everyone. I love
Yeah.
that. Outworking everyone. It's like, hey, you might be more talented or more athletic in some way, but you're not going to outwork me. And I think that right there is huge.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So.
Well, I do want to ask too, and I want to respect your time, but I do want to ask a little bit about just we mentioned before about mentorship, and then talked a little bit about therapy, and you mentioned imposter syndrome. Being Latino, and I'm Latino as well. I'm a Latino therapist. I know that you're also getting your degree in sports psych as well, your doctorate, working on it. And so, this is probably a whole other session that we'll have to have. But let's get listeners ready at least for for that next session of Latinos and mental health and taking care of your physical and mental health. You're a male, you're a Latino male. Coach, if you had to say something about it and how you take care of yourself,
Yeah.
your journey. I know it's a lot, but
No, absolutely. I want to tread carefully here because I think there's some uniformity in Latino men that we're taught to suppress.
mm,
Growing up, like we've always been taught like showing an emotion is a weakness.
yeah,
And I never knew that to be true. You
mm,
know what I mean? And so as I
mm,
grew older in my journey, um, I thought it was important to one, know how to be vulnerable.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
because our bodies are going to, when you suppress, you do something. I always think of suppression from a perspective of like, if I was carrying like a 10-pound box, right?
yeah,
It
mm,
wouldn't be a big deal
yeah,
for most people, right?
mm,
But then the next thing comes up and you add another 10-pound box.
yeah,
Well, it's going to get a little harder, right?
uh-huh.
And then eventually you're carrying 100 pounds around.
Yeah,
Something's got to give.
that's good.
And so we have to normalize the ability to have outlets.
Yeah,
My outlet for me is like being around like-minded individuals
mm,
that we can discuss certain things,
right, yeah,
whether it's about family life, whether it's about faith, whether it's
mm,
about politics or anything that I don't have to just keep to myself.
yeah,
Right. And I think having a group around you that you're able to do that is important because like growing up, I suppressed so much. And now as an adult,
uh-huh,
like trying to become a better version, a better father, a better husband, a
for sure.
better, athletic, everything that I'm trying to be a better person at. Like I can't do that carrying stuff from my past. So like for me, as I mentioned, I've learned to be regimented in my life. So when I
Mm,
wake up, I open up the Bible. That's the first thing I do. I do a reflection.
that's awesome.
I post my reflection.
Mm,
I always get good feedback from those from people. Thanks. I'm glad I heard this. And so, that's
yeah,
what it's about. And then for me, it's just being able to get into this. I'm an avid weightlifter. So I talked about
yeah,
David Mendoza earlier.
uh-huh,
I was 13 years old when I began my weightlifting journey.
mm,
Okay. David Mendoza was the
mm,
one that introduced me to weights.
okay,
And it was in his garage
yeah,
at his house. And I have never stopped lifting since the age of 13.
wow,
Full circle moment.
yeah.
I have a full weight room in my garage
That's what's up.
that I train my daughters in,
Yeah.
that I've trained my wife with her friends. My neighbor, who's a young man that just went to Cornell
Okay.
to play
Awesome.
baseball. I
Yeah.
tr I trained him in my garage. I've
Nice.
trained other kids in my garage because
Yeah.
to me that's a full circle moment. Like to be able to help
Definitely.
others without
Yeah.
expecting anything in return. That to me, like the epitome of a servant leader was my good friend is my good friend David Mendoza.
Mm.
And so lifting weights for me is one of those things that allows me to be in this state of competition still.
Yeah.
Like it's me and numbers. Like
For
this
sure.
month for strength coaches is December. We are deadlifting all month,
Okay.
right? And so like if the number is 375 pounds, Like
Yeah.
I got to be able to attack that. And if I can't,
Yeah.
it's just me and that number. I'm
Yeah.
competing against the bar
I
and
love it.
trying to make sure that I'm getting better. And so
Yeah.
that's my second outlet, my faith, and
Yeah.
then lifting weights because it allows me to be centered in my mind around what I need to do for the day. If I can compete against the bar, I can compete against anything that's going to come in front of me throughout the day. And in my job, it's like a roller coaster. You get in there and different things, you're being pushed in different directions. Different people
Yeah.
need different things at different times. And so you have to be willing to be flexible and adaptable and make some pivots in your day.
Yeah.
And so for me, like those are the two main things that allow me to be at my best. There's a saying, you can't serve
Mm.
others unless you serve yourself. And
Yeah.
as Latino men, we have to do a better job of serving ourselves first from a perspective of mental and physical health
So
so
true.
that we can be better to the people we are supposed to serve, which is our families, the work that we do.
Mm.
We have a lot of Latino mentors out there
Yeah.
that do this work, and so being able to find a niche for yourself and how to take care of yourself mentally and physically is a
Yeah.
must. Like this
Hmm.
isn't like, hey, recommend it. Like the
Yeah.
research shows it. Like if
So
you're
true.
not doing this, dude, you're going to burn out. You're going to
Yeah.
break. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So
So true.
so that's what I do as far as like my thing with that and my perspective on that is like you have to find it, man. And it
Yeah.
doesn't like for me is weightlifting. Like people are always like, oh, I can't get to a weight. Dude, you can go
Yeah.
walking. Like you
So
can,
true.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like
Facts.
there's
Hmm.
so many different
So
things
much.
that you can do. Like
Yeah.
excuses or we can find 100 excuses, but
Uh-huh.
the key thing is to be able to commit to something and have the discipline to show up every day and do it continually because you know it's going to be beneficial.
That's so good. Those are some gems right there because it's so true. And I love that you found what works for you. Because
Mhm.
what works for you might not work for somebody else. But it's like you said, hey man, go walk, go play pickleball,
Yep.
go swim, like something,
Yep.
go do something, right? Be active, and not suppressing things and taking care of your mental and physical health. Because again, as you said, as a father, as a husband, taking care of your family, well, you got to take care of yourself as well. And that hits home for me because I'm a dad, I'm a husband too, and there's times where there's so much going on and work and all everything, and you're just like, my outlet as well is the gym too. I use the gym as well, and there's other things too that I enjoy that I do with family or friends and stuff, but I love that, and being able to talk about it
Yeah.
is so important.
I,
Not
I
suppressing it.
I also think it's important. Like my wife is an amazing woman, man. Uh I've I met her in San Francisco and we
Mm.
I married her 6 months into I knew the day I met her, which was May 19th, 2005, that I would marry her.
Yeah, that's
And the
so
journey
cool.
hasn't been easy. Like just,
Yeah.
our faith teaches us that marriage is going to be the hardest thing and it needs work.
Hmm.
I'm fortunate to be in a situation where my wife, um, it our dynamic is good where we can kind of feed off each other from a perspective of if there's needs, they're communicated.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get caught up. When I was a college coach, I
Hmm.
always used to tell her like if I lose sight of family, she would
Yeah.
tell me. And it's hard as a coach. As an
Hmm.
administrator now, if I get too consumed with work, I just tell her, like, tell me. Like
That's
I
good.
need,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to have that because Latino men are grown to be these machistas,
Yeah.
like this machismo culture. And,
Uh-huh.
and it drives me insane because for me, like navigating life in that fashion, you're going to be alone, dude. Like you need a
Yeah.
life partner to
Hmm.
journey life through and have fun and be able to do things. Like I
Yeah.
do my best to empower my wife and elevate her and help her be
Hmm.
at a better place. But I also believe that I wouldn't be able to do that unless I take care of myself first,
Yeah.
because I that's just my way of like that is my outlet. That's what I
Yeah.
do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that right there is something that again needs to keep being talked about. And I think that's where conversations like this make such a huge difference for people to hear. and those that maybe are struggling with how, hey, where do you even start? And well, here's some things that we're just given, some real practical tools and tips to say, start by doing this, communicating your needs, take
Yeah.
care of yourself, find something that's going to help you have a healthy outlet, because it's going to come out some way or somewhere. It's
Yep.
going to eventually, and a lot of people, they cope in unhealthy ways where they either suppress or they use things, substances and things, to just numb themselves and go away and escape. And it's going to come out some way. So if you let it out in a healthy way, and that's
Yep.
why, again, the gym is excellent for
Yeah.
sure, you know?
Yeah, suppression never comes out in a positive fashion, man. It's just never going to, right? Like you
No, yeah,
suppressing is just you're becoming a bitter human being, and bitter
yeah,
people do bitter things. And so you have to find an outlet that allows you to be healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually, because we need more of that in this world where we're surrounded by negativity all the time. We have
so
to do
true.
our part to be better at those things for sure.
Definitely. Well, Coach, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time, and I appreciate you coming on here and chatting it up. Is there anything left or else that you'd like to say to encourage anybody, listeners, before we wrap it up? And I think we'll have to dive into a part two of this because this was a really good dialogue. But
Absolutely.
anything that you have that you want to close out with?
Yeah, we spoke of this notion of like being a Latino male, and I think there's other groups that really can relate to this stuff as
Yeah,
well. We speak from what we grew up in, but there's
yeah,
similarities in that. But I think it's important to note that you can't close the notion of like closed mouths don't get fed. Like
mm,
you have to take that step in recognizing that you need to be better. And
yeah,
once you do that, then you got to create a plan on how you're going to be better.
for
And,
sure.
and you got to be able to execute that plan. The execution of that plan is the tough part because there's a lot of fear and maybe it doesn't work out.
Mm,
But you have to find a group of people that you can grow with to do these things because we need that more and more, man.
yeah,
So much of the research and like business models uh, show that community, this model
yeah,
around community,
mm,
is so beneficial to the soul.
yeah,
We want belonging. We want to be part of something.
yeah.
Why not you start that, right? Jason Khalifa, who is
That's
a
it.
five-time CrossFit champion, and I coached his brother-in-law,
Mm,
and he has a men's group every Thursday morning. They just get
nice.
on and they
Yeah,
just chat. Like, just find an avenue for yourself
yeah. Mm,
because this oppression piece, it, it comes to an end, and the end is not pretty. So
no, yeah,
fix it now so that you can be at a better place and be a better person for other people.
for sure. Those are, like I said, coaches out here dropping gems. That's those are so practical, but yet people don't think about them because we're so busy. Sometimes we get
Mhm.
caught up in all other things.
Yeah.
So let's reflect on that. So to the listeners and those that are watching, reflect on this. And you probably will need to play it back again to get some more things that maybe you missed the first time. But coach, I appreciate you coming on here again, taking time, and I'm looking forward to more collaboration and work in the future. And shout out to what you're doing. You're doing some awesome work.
Appreciate you, Matthew. Thank you so much. And I hope your listeners get a nugget or two, man.
Definitely.